Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's make a couple gravity ice-dyed shirts. So I do a technique where I have a metal rack that has holes in it and I twist the shirt and kind of poke them through the holes. Well, not too long ago when I made one of those shirts, I had someone say, so what would happen if you turned that rack upside down and dyed the shirt that way? So I thought, let's give it a try. The first shirt that I'm working on is the one where the shirt's going to be right side up. So for my setup, I have 2 plastic sawhorses with 2 long pieces of vinyl guttering between the 2 sawhorses. And then I have my metal rack going in between the 2 sawhorses. This metal rack has legs on it, so that will keep it from just sliding off of the sawhorses. It kind of braces it in between the 2. For this shirt, I'm going to do the twist scrunch technique on the bottom portion of the shirt. So I have the neck and the top portion of the shirt hanging down below. I'm going to grab a little piece of fabric, kind of give it a twist, and poke it through the holes in the rack. I'm going to continue that until I have all of this lower portion scrunched and twisted and poked through these holes. For this shirt, I'm going to use some of the Die Spin Dark Horse dies and then 1 Dharma die. I'm using Elysian, which is very similar, I think, to Strawberry Skies from Happy Cat Tie-Dye, and I'm using Moody Blue. Then I thought to kind of break up both of those colors, I would throw in some Flamingo Fantasy. That's a color that I don't use that often, and I actually think that may be a special order color from Dharma. If it is, you can usually purchase those from a Facebook group called Tie-Dye Supplies Marketplace. I'll leave a link down below in the description. If not, you can just substitute another color that you may already have. It's pretty windy today, and even though the shirt is damp, I went ahead and sprayed it with a little bit of soda ash solution that I have inside of a spray bottle. Hopefully that'll keep my dye from just flying all over the place. So a lot of times when I do this technique, I apply the dye in stripes. But this time I thought I would just randomly apply the dye. And I'm only going to apply dye to the portion of the shirt that is on top of the rack. I'm not going to add dye to the part hanging down below. Because it is windy, some dye is going to fall down there on its own. But I'm not purposely going to apply dye there. I started with the Elysian, then went on to the Moody Blue, and I'm going to finish with the Flamingo Fantasy. By the way, even though I'm dyeing this shirt outside, I'm still wearing my respirator the same way I do when I do tie-dye inside. As you can see, this dye is blowing around and I don't want to accidentally inhale any of it. Once I've applied the dye, I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye. I'm going to add quite a bit of ice to this design, and I want to make sure all of my original soda ash from the soda ash soak doesn't get washed out of the shirt. The shirt needs to have the soda ash in it to raise the pH so that the dye will bond properly. Now I'm going to add some ice on the top, and I found that it's a little easier with the gravity dyes to add larger chunks of ice. This one I made in a Cool Whip container, and then I have some really large ice cubes which I made from a pretty large ice cube tray. The larger chunks of ice melt slower and they just don't fall off the shirt quite as easily. I left the shirt and allowed all the ice to melt, and by the time the ice melted, the dye had gone all the way down to the very bottom of the shirt. It had dyed the gravity dyed portion. So I took this rack and I collapsed the legs on it and placed this rack down inside of a plastic Tupper tote, and then I put a lid on the tote and took it inside and allowed it to process where it was a little bit warmer. Then after about 48 hours, I went ahead and rinsed it out. Okay, so now let's do the upside down one. And for this one, I'm going to put the scrunch portion on the top part of the shirt. I'm going to do the same technique that I did with the other shirt, and I have the bottom portion or the hem part of the shirt hanging down below my rack. I'm twisting the fabric and poking it down through the holes. The easiest way to do this is find where you'd like for your twists to end and put that at the very edge of your rack and start from there. That leaves the part that you'd like to gravity dye dangling down below. And for this shirt, I thought I would use a little bit different color palette. I'm going to use some reds, browns, and oranges. I want to make this one more of a fall or autumn type themed shirt. To get my shirt ready to dye, I used the sawhorses and vinyl guttering setup that I used with the last shirt. But to actually dye the shirt, I'm using a metal rack or metal shelving unit that I have outside, and I'm going to flip this metal rack upside down and place it on top of the shelving unit. Then I'm going to move it to the edge so that my gravity dyed portion is hanging down below. I'm going to go ahead and spray it with some of the soda ash solution like I did the last shirt, and fix a couple of the little areas, kind of pull them up and through those holes so that they're poked up. So the last shirt, I added all of my dyes randomly. But for this shirt, I'm going to go ahead and do the stripe method where I apply the dye in stripes. I'm starting with Barn Red from Pro Chemical and Dye, followed by Dharma's Dark Brown, then Dusty Orange from Pro Chemical and Dye. And by the way, I read something one time from somebody that said, if you want some really good color splitters from Pro Chemical and Dye, choose one of the colors that is called either Dusty or Antique, some kind of name like that. So far, that advice has been pretty accurate. I haven't really found any of the colors from Pro Chemical named that aren't good color splitters. So you might keep that in mind the next time you order Pro Chemical colors. The last two colors I'm using are Butterbeer from Happy Cat Tie-Dye and Oxblood Red from Dharma. And if you'll notice, I'm taking these colors down to the very edge of the rack and kind of letting them flow over just a little bit, just right at that edge. I want to promote those colors flowing down the shirt. I'm going to add on a little bit of additional soda ash and the ice. I made both of these shirts at the same time, so I treated this one exactly the same way as I did the other shirt. As soon as the ice melted, I went ahead and collapsed the legs on this rack, placed it inside of another container, and allowed it to process for about 48 hours before I rinsed it out. I've included some process photos for both of the shirts so that you can see the way the dye moves and runs down the shirt as the ice melts. If you're concerned about your shirt drying out in the wind, you can place some soda ash solution down inside of a spray bottle and just give it a light mist every now and then. That'll help keep the shirt damp, and you do want your shirt to remain semi-damp because when it dries out, the dye quits bonding with the fabric. So you want to make sure your dye gets all the way to the edge of the shirt or wherever you want your dye to move to before the shirt dries out. That's one reason too why I take and put some of my gravity dyes down inside of containers and bring them inside. Like I said, it's pretty windy here, and no matter what the temperature is, just the wind alone will help dry a shirt out. I'm going to rinse both of the shirts the same exact way. I'm going to take them to my utility sink and start rinsing them in cold water. I'm actually going to leave the shirt poked through the rack to begin the rinse too. Once I've rinsed really well in cold water, I'm going to go ahead and warm the water up to hot and continue rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I'll go ahead and take the shirt off the rack as well. Then instead of just continuing to rinse until my water runs clear, I'm going to run some really hot water in my utility sink, add a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, put the shirt inside and allow it to soak. When the water cools off, I'll change it out and I'll continue that soaking process until my water is remaining almost clear. Then I'm going to put both of the shirts into my washing machine and wash them on a hot water cycle, along with a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent. If you'd like a little bit more information about my rinsing process, I've done a blog post about that, and I have that out on my website. There's a link below to my website. Then, after the shirts have both been washed and dried, here's what they look like. Okay, so here's the right side up shirt. I thought I would show you the shirts in the order in which I dyed them. I think this one looks really cool, almost like flowers that are dissolving. I like all the colors together. I think they're really pretty. And like I said, all of these colors have really pretty color splits. And I like the effect of twisting and poking the shirt through the holes in that rack. It gives just enough of a little design right in that area. A little bit different than just a traditional scrunch. And I think it looks cool. I also like the fact that this time I brought the design a little further up on the shirt. I didn't stop it down as low. And I like that too. Okay, so here's the second shirt, the one that was done upside down. I really like this shirt too. I think it turned out looking really cool, but I can't really tell that there's a huge difference between the right side up and the upside down shirt, which is kind of what I thought was going to happen, but I thought I may as well try it and see for sure. I do really like the colors though. I think they flow really well together. Love the color splits. I love the dye movement on the bottom portion of the shirt. And I like that dusty orange. That's the yellow and red type color right down through the middle of the shirt. Okay, so here are both of the shirts together side by side. So you can kind of judge for yourself whether there's very much difference or any difference at all between the two techniques. I don't see a whole lot of difference, but that's just me. But I do really like both of the shirts. I think they both ended up looking really cool. But what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And do you have a favorite between these two? Let me know that too. So if you've enjoyed watching the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.